Hello everyone, welcome to another live hangout here at Voice Essentials. Wow, what an amazing, crazy time we are living in. And you know, for the first time in our living memory, we are literally in this together right across the globe. This is unprecedented. The coronavirus has become something that I think, whilst there may have been a small select group of epidemiologists and virologists and people who are in the know in that, but they may have expected this, but we certainly, I think, en masse didn't. And so this is huge. And today I want to talk with you. We are going to get to, I'm hoping that we have time later in the show to do Q&A. And I want to do a Q&A with you. And so if you are in the live chat, be sure to leave your questions, and our ever faithful Linda will collate those questions as we go along. And so, because at the end of the day, this channel is not a coronavirus channel. This channel is about learning to sing. And for many of you, it's about beginner level learning to sing. And so that is what this channel is going to continue to be. Whilst today I want to take an opportunity to talk to the current affairs that we are all facing, and just talk through a number of different things with the view to giving you hope. That is not going to be the lasting topic on this channel. I want to assure you of that, not because we are going to live in denial here at Voice Essentials. We are certainly not going to do that. But I am very conscious of the fact that I think this channel and your own personal singing is going to become so vitally important in the coming weeks and months ahead, because we are in for a really rough and tough ride. And I kind of want to talk to you and talk with you. There's no talking to you. This is talking with you about what the coming weeks and months might hold. I do want to say straight up, and it is worth saying in the context of what we're dealing with, I am not a medical doctor. Anything that I say is not giving you direct advice. My doctorate is in a doctorate of musical arts, a DMA, and my specific area is teaching and learning. And so I am in no way equipped or qualified to give you direct medical advice. For those of you who watch this channel regularly, you know that I adhere to my scope of practice, but I do think, just given today's subject, it is worth me repeating that, and for you to understand that at no point will I seek to cross over those very important boundaries, because that, well, in normal circumstances that can be dangerous, but in these circumstances it can be really, really foolish. And so I will continue to do that. Right off the cuff, what I want to say to you all is keep singing. Singing has been shown, studies have been shown, singing can boost your immune system. This is not a silver bullet. There is no silver bullet to this yet. And you know, so aren't we so fortunate to live at a time when there are very, very smart teams of people working on a vaccine as we speak, working tirelessly around the clock. And that hopefully will be our silver bullet to coronavirus and COVID-19. But in the meantime, what we can do is reinforce our immune system, and singing is going to be a part of that. Singing will assist your lung health and encouraging your lungs Again, it won't protect you from coronavirus, but going into this with healthy, strong lungs is going to be a positive thing. And then on top of that, your singing has been shown through many studies to encourage and reinforce your mental health because it releases and saturates you with endorphins. I cannot tell you how many times over my career of teaching, 25 years this year, I cannot tell you how many times I observe a student walk in, maybe they've had something happen in their life, they're flat, they're despondent, and at the beginning of the lesson, they're really feeling a bit down. By the end of their lesson, they walk out, their circumstance hasn't changed, but the endorphins that are released into their system gives them that mental health boost that equips them to reapproach their current scenario in a far more positive light. The script I've put on the front of my thumbnail for this video is, has singing ever been so important? And do you know what? Coming into this next period of time, your singing is going to play a really crucial role, not only in your health, but for the health of those around you. People, depending on where you are in the world, parts of the world are already in lockdown. Here in Brisbane, Australia, we haven't yet reached that point. I suspect it's coming. They are slowly but surely turning up the heat and slowly but surely contracting our ability to move around, and I think that is appropriate. I am trying to stay in lockstep with what our government officials are saying, and really adhering to their advice. And I think it's only a matter of time before here in Brisbane, Australia, we are in lockdown, as many of you already are. And so when we are in close quarters like that, it won't only be the benefit of the singing for you, it is going to be the benefit for others who hear you and hear you in, warts and all. Why? Because there's something about the human voice that is reassuring and encouraging, and it sows seeds of hope and joy. Many of you have seen the video of the Italians who, if you are in Italy, our prayers and our thoughts are with you, as they are with everyone currently, but I know Italy is really, really facing some very challenging times right now. And so we are with you in thought and prayer. But, there's a video going around of Italians coming out onto their balconies and singing together, and because there's just something wonderful in a community of voices that gives us that collective lift. And so don't let the coronavirus silence your voice. I cannot stress that more. It is so important that if you are in health, and many of you are going to continue to be, and that's something that I think we need to be really mindful of, is that as we step through this next period of time, that many of us are going to, are going to come through this, and we're going to be different. We are going to get to the other end of this, and I want to actually share a story with you in a moment, a personal story, which I hope you'll take a moment to just listen to, because I want to share it with the view to giving you hope. But before I do want to remind us of the things that you can be doing, because singing, as I said, it's no silver bullet. But there are some things that you do need to be doing, regardless of where you are in the world. And I really encourage you to be listening to your local authorities on what you should be doing, because everywhere in the world is at different points with this whole thing. And so, what is currently allowed in Brisbane, Australia, is most certainly not what's happening in Italy or England or the US for that matter. So you must listen to your local authorities. in what you are or are not permitted to do. But there are some things that we need to reiterate. I know you'll have heard these before, but I want to say it again because we need to constantly remind ourselves of the importance of these things. Personal hygiene, specifically to if you must wash your hands. And hand sanitizer, which is sort of like liquid gold at the moment, if you've still got access to hand sanitizer, that is good. What is best is washing your hands with soap for at least 20 seconds. And the great thing about that is the soap removes the oil from around your hands and on the surface of your skin, and then as you wash it away with the water, it is washed down the sink. So hand sanitizer, good. Washing your hands with soap, better, as long as you're doing it for at least 20 seconds. So don't forget to do that, and do it regularly. Do it as regularly as you think a doctor or a nurse when they're on shift would do it, which is a lot. And so it's far more regularly than you would expect. Avoid physical contact. We've got to stop hugging, shaking hands, with people outside of our family circle. And, we say grace at our table when we sit down to eat together. And we've started putting our elbows out like this, not to touch. It's just a funny thing that we as a family have been doing. We're no longer holding hands for grace, which is what we used to do. Maybe that's something we should continue with, because anyway. And also, if you do cough, if you do sneeze, do it into this point of your elbow, into your sleeve if you can, or into a tissue which you should immediately dispose of into a bin, after which you should then immediately wash your hands. These are simple things, but they right now, until we have a vaccine, these are really important things that we have to do to help combat the disease and the spread of the virus. And if we do these things together, it is going to go some way to helping to. In our country, they are seeking to flatten the curve to assist with reducing and mitigating the load on the public health system, even the private health system, and young people, because I know a lot of people that watch this show are younger. This is a time for you to show, for the younger generations to show that you are not a selfish generation, as you have been accused of so many times, because for the vast majority of the younger generations, you will have mild to asymptomatic response to this virus. It is not, for many of you, going to be life-threatening. But for many older people in your community, it will be. It can be. And it is so important that at a time like this that we are thinking of others just as much as we are thinking of ourselves, and that's why we need to do these things. I want to share a story, if you will. It's not a story, it's actually a personal experience, to kind of step you through perhaps some of the emotions that you might be experiencing right now in regards to this, that we're all experiencing, and with a view to give you light at the end of the tunnel. As many of you know, it's about 2.5 years ago now, on the 12th of August 2018, it's all too easily etched into my memory. Or was it 2017? Oh dear me, it was a long time ago. About 2.5 years ago, my wife, so it'd be 2017. Wow. So that's even promising. I can't remember exactly the year. My wife was diagnosed with colon cancer. This came as a massive shock. It was out of the blue. Jodie, my wife, if we were to put her in a lineup with all of our friends and were to bring a stranger in and say, pick the person who is most likely at the age of 40 to get colon cancer, Jodie would be the last person that you would pick. She's healthy, she's fit, she's not overweight. She's, if anything, I think she's underweight, but she isn't. She's healthy weight. She eats well. She doesn't eat a lot of red meat. She doesn't drink a lot of alcohol. Never been a smoker. The least likely to contract colon cancer. This reminds me so much of what we're currently going through. This has come from left field. When it first started in China, and I'm not in the blame game as some international leaders are being. If when this first happened, it's all too easy to go, well, that's happening over there, and that that won't happen to us. It's kind of like the cancer diagnosis. We were, you never think it'll happen to you. But here we were dealing with this shock. Here we are dealing with the shock that this thing has, in many respects, got out of hand, and now we are trying to play a bit of catch-up footy. Sorry, that's an Australian colloquialism. We're kind of trying to catch up with it, and so you, in that moment, you are in shock. I remember sitting immediately after the gastroenterologist had told us that Jodie had a cancer, and Jodie was then wheeled out to go and have some other scans. And I remember waiting in the waiting room, just numb. Literally the world came to an immediate and abrupt stop. That feeling was, well, it did last about 3 or 4 days in our case. And then we were able to get more information, and the more information we got led to her having surgery to have the cancer removed. But then, she ended up spending 3 weeks in hospital when it should have been only 3 to 5 days. And so, because things didn't go to plan, well, certainly she got what's called an ileus, but she got it really bad. It basically is where her gut didn't reboot, it didn't restart after the surgery, and so she was really sick for a period of time. And then we had to commence, and that surgery for us right now is a bit like we're kind of going into some really significant changes. Some of those changes are, for some of you, you're in lockdown. Your whole social structure has been stopped. It's been removed. And I do want to just say, Linda, I forgot to say this at the very beginning. Linda has my full permission. As you know, many of you know, Linda is a trained GP, general practitioner, medical doctor. She has my full permission to remove any inappropriate comments as we're talking through, or any information that suggests that they, any links or anything. This is not a space for that. Linda, you've got my full permission to remove any comment in the live chat that needs to be. So this immediate change that we're all going through, where, you can't go out to the pub, you can't go to your local restaurant. My children's boys' brigade, girls' brigade, youth group, it's all closed. Our local church is now streaming the service online. All these opportunities for us to mix and mingle and be human beings with each other have been removed. And so you know, that's got immediate change, and it's not dissimilar to the process of that surgery that Jodie had. Then we step into, for Jodie's journey, the next step was chemo. We were so naive to what that was going. We thought, you know, is she going? I think at one point I thought chemo would be a 4-week thing or a 3-month thing. For Jodie, chemotherapy was a 6-month process. Every 2 weeks she received medication into a port that had been surgically inserted into her chest, and you know, she you know, the longer you get into the chemo, the sicker she became, and you know, the rhetoric around chemo is, you know, we've got to treat the patient to the very edge of what that patient can handle on a health basis. You've got to kill the cancer or any resident cancer cells without killing the patient. It's not dissimilar to what we're facing. With any lockdown that will happen here in Australia, I anticipate, I have no inside knowledge, this is not advice, I'm simply telling you what I personally am, you know, taking from the rhetoric that's coming. Any lockdown that might happen here in Brisbane, Australia, I think is likely to have us last for 6 months. This is going to be hard, and the further we get into the 6-month process, the harder it's going to be. This is not going to be easy. But do you know what? The whole point of doing that is to slowly but surely kill off, in this case, the virus cells. We actually have to restrict our movement so that the COVID-19 disease cannot develop. We can't share the virus, and therefore new people can't develop the disease. Chemo was not easy. It sucked. It was really hard. But do you know what? We got through it. We got to the other end. Jodie was really unwell by the end of that. But she's still here today. And you know, when Jodie first got diagnosed, my inbox got flooded with people telling me, don't do chemo, it's a pharmaceutical conspiracy. And you know, I understand that there was a great deal of good intent in people sharing that information with me. But in my humble opinion, that information was, number one, flawed. Number two, not backed up with research or studies. And I am pleased to say that my wife is still with me. My wife is still mothering my 3 children. We got through it. And the next 6 months, maybe it will be longer. Hopefully it will be shorter. But you can get through this. I am not trying to downplay how challenging and difficult it is going to be. It is. For many of you, financially, this is going to be super tough. For some of you, you've already lost your income. And I don't know what to say to you. There are no platitudes that can make that better. My hope for you is that you have family and friends around you who will support you through this time. That's what it's going to take. We are going to have to come together and go through this together and support each other. Can I say to those of you who are singers and who love your singing, you're having singing lessons with a local teacher at the moment, if your income continues unabated or not significantly impacted by what's going on here, can I encourage you to continue having your singing lessons with your teacher online? So many singing teachers are moving to online delivery. This is such a side note to the story I'm telling, but so many singing teachers are moving their delivery to online. They are going to need your continued support. They're going to continue to support you vocally with great lessons. I want to encourage you to continue to support them financially so that they can get through this as well. Complete side note, but I want you to support your local singing teachers and other small businesses. You know, some people are going to really struggle financially through this, but others, and this is always the case throughout history, other people will go through it relatively unscathed. Their incomes will continue relatively the same. And I want to encourage you, if you're one of those, continue to support your local small business because they are going to need you at this time. They are going to need you to spend some money with them. I know you'll do that. So we come through to the end of our 6 month of chemo. In our case, it's going to be we come through to the end of 6 months of lockdown. It doesn't finish there, actually. I wish I could say it did. We were told back when we first started chemo, our oncologist said the treatment will be for 6 months, and then from the very end of treatment, you can expect it to take 18 months to 2 years before you feel like yourself again. Actually, that 2-year mark was literally last Wednesday for Jodie. And she is back to normal. We can say, and I think she really turned the corner into the beginning of this year where, you know, her stamina is back up, her health is back up. She's got a spring in her step again, and we're very much back to normal pre-cancerous Jodie. But it did take time. The recovery of this takes time. We'll come out of lockdown. We will. You know, we will come out of lockdown. We'll emerge, but it will take time for things to get back to normal. But they do get back to normal. This is not the end of the road. This is a significant bump in the road, and I wouldn't want to downplay that at all. That would be cavalier, to say the least. But we will come through this, and in 2 years' time, my hope would be that we're starting to function with a clear bill of health, and life will return. I tell you that story to hopefully sow some hope, to point out the light at the end of the tunnel. It's going to be a long tunnel. There are going to be shifts and swerves where actually we'll lose the light at the end of the tunnel. But it will always be there. It is going to be there. Make no mistake, this is not the end of the world. It may be the end of the world as we know it, but that doesn't mean that what we get to on the other side is necessarily going to be a bad thing. My hope is that humanity, in moving through this together, comes out the other side and is able to really learn some things, that we are all on this planet together, that our biologies are all the same, and regardless of our nationality, our religion, our you know, whether we're black, white, yellow, we're the same. And my hope is that we come out of it together, better people for the experience. I hope that's been helpful. I hope that encourages you. I'm going to turn to some questions in a moment, but can I encourage you to share this video with friends and family, singers, mostly singers that'll want to watch this, who will find it encouraging. Couple more things, just a couple more things, very short. On the Facebook community page, the Voice Essentials Facebook, we've had a couple of things shared into the group. Can I tell you that anything of a religious nature, anything, no matter how harmless, yeah, the things that we've removed, I wouldn't say have any malicious intent, but regardless of it, if it's religious of nature, if it's offering, links to or suggestions of around the coronavirus, can I tell you, they will be removed. They are going to be deleted. And anyone we find being repeat offenders, you will be removed from the community. This is the Voice Essentials Facebook group. This channel, my studio, is not the place to be sharing that information. On that note, can I also say, can I really encourage you, be very careful what you're reading on social media. I literally just before I came on here, I read a piece of information, which I'm not going to share, on Facebook, shared by a friend. It was alarming. It was confrontational. Now, had I not had the sense to quickly Google what this person had shared, I might not have realized that actually that piece of information, whilst it had a slither of truth in it, it was actually inaccurate. And so, can I encourage you to go to trusted places that are sharing the information, trusted sources, and I know many of you trust your friends, and so we don't want to sow distrust amongst our closest friends. But equally, I know in Australia, I can't speak to other countries, but I know in Australia, our government is working really hard to update the .gov.health website with the latest information, accurate information, and I encourage you to do the same. Find one or two trusted, authoritative sources of information that you can regularly go to, and use that as your source. Fear, being scared, anxiety are not going to help us in this time. Sticking your head in the sand isn't going to help either, and I'm definitely not advocating for that, but I do want to encourage you to be really careful. And I've got to say to you, I am looking to reduce my general social media interactions purely to help reduce my sense, excuse me, there's my lunch, my sense of anxiety. Because at a time like this, none of us need any more, do we? Okay, I will, just one final thing, let you know, to help some of you who are feeling financially stressed at the moment, but also to encourage more singing and get you singing, I have significantly discounted the Voice Essentials course, which I'm still working on, everyone. Voice Essentials 2 is coming. I've still got it slated. I'm still going to be working on it in a few weeks. I've finished all of the scripts, so I'll be recording it. It is coming. I'm going to get it to you. And it's really important that at this moment that I get it to you so you can be working on your singing. But for those of you who haven't already bought Voice Essentials 1, For a limited time, I have reduced the price. I'm discounting the price to simply give you access, you know, on a financial level to the stuff. So please take advantage of that if you're able to. Okay. Wow. I think I've only ever had one more somber, more heavy interaction on on the show, and that was when I first shared that that my wife Jody had contracted cancer. We are in some really unusual times. Okay, let's get to some questions, and let's play the stinger because I think it's a good thing for us to do as we go to some Q&A. Okay, so yeah, just a reminder, this is going to be a singing channel. I do not have an intent to, you know, I think I'm not going to try and, again, live in denial that coronavirus is taking place and that we are all, you know, struggling through this. So, of course, I'll mention it. Of course, we'll talk about it. But I want this to be, if at the very least, once a week at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, we're able to get together, we're able to converse and talk about singing, and it's a place where we don't have to, for 50 minutes, worry about the coronavirus. I think that's going to be a really positive thing in your week, and so I want to commit to you that, my health allowing, I will be here every Monday, 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, and we will be able to talk singing. It kind of doesn't, it's almost an oxymoron, isn't it? We will talk about singing so that you can further develop your voice. Reem Charles has asked, every time I do vocal exercises when approaching the top note, it comes out quiet or trapped. I do everything like dropping the jaw, though I got the note the other day. Please advise. Okay, so approaching high notes, it really depends on what the note is, what vowel it's being sung on. But one thing to be mindful of with high notes is actually what are called the penultimate notes. What is happening in the lead up to that note? We do find ourselves focusing on the final note, that apex note. It's always interesting to me to observe singers. You know, often even the note, the one or two notes preceding the top note, so the penultimate notes, they often themselves are quite high. And if we were to actually drop the whole thing down, maybe down to the level of the preceding top note, and so that becomes then the top note, and then we try to sing it again, it's still hard to hit that next note, even though in the original key, that note was singable. So it comes down to what are we doing when we reach the apex point. And often what we're doing, there's a bit of a mental game going on. We kind of think, oh, gee, I've got to really stretch to it. But it's also got to do with the balance of airflow, your shape, and how you're approaching it. I do have one of my very, very early videos. The content is good. The video production, maybe not so much. But I use the analogy, as I still do with many students, of a pole vaulter. Do you know, professional pole vaulters or Olympic pole vaulters, they will tell you that often they know whether they're going to get over the apex point, over that top, that bar, not at the point that they're going over the bar, but in the run-up, as they're running up, they'll know if they're in the zone and if that is going to happen for them. And so it is in that run-up, you know, sort of knowing what your vowel shapes are doing and how you're positioning the top notes that will be helpful to you. So be mindful of that, Raim. And some of the exercises in Voice Essentials 1, 2, and 3 will help you to develop that a little further. Raul Pothula, can you please make a video on attack and release onset, please? Already done, Raul. If you jump across to Voice Essentials, the Voice Essentials YouTube page, the channel page, jump to the video tab, and you should be able to search through and find onsets and offsets. And of course, in Voice Essentials 2 and 3 exercise collections, there are activities on both onsets and offsets. You're calling them attack and release, but you know, we can, yeah. So have a look at those. Go searching for them. We're already done. Marcel Dussart. Hey, Dr. Dan. Hey, Marcel. Hope you're doing well. I am doing well. I'm a little stressed like the rest of us, but we're doing well. Just wondering if you have exercises specifically for getting better at riffs and runs. Well, this is going to be easy today for Q&A. I already do. There's a video on the channel, just like I've said to Raul. Go jump across onto the channel. There is a video, and in fact, at the end of that video, it links to a series of videos, not of my own, but of breaking down the riffs, I think it's called. And I'm trying to remember the singer who does them. Anyway, go and check that out because she does a great job of breaking that down. And I have on Voice Essentials 2 exercise collection, there is a couple of activities, a minor and a major. I should have said that the other way around. Hey, a major and a minor version of you to practice riffs and runs. So you might want to check that out as well. Haley Zwart, how do you sing with confidence? Again, there's a video. I've got over 400, climbing towards 500 videos now on the channel. So when in doubt, everyone, check out the channel because there is so much pre-recorded video on this. Singing with more confidence, there are a range of things that go on here. Part of it, singing with more confidence, part of it is a mental game, is you becoming comfortable in your own skin. And we can't become more comfortable in our own skin, Haley, when we spend time with our voice, when we get to know our own voice and appreciate it for what it is, you know, and so developing technique, you know, just knowing, being more aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it, understanding that is going to be really helpful to you to develop confidence. And there's a range of other things that I talk about in a number of the videos, which is good. I'm going to come back up to Matt because Matt's got a question, doesn't he always? Hi, Matt. If you're going to sing out of your comfort zone, how do you do it safely with regards to your voice and throat? Great question, Matt. I'm going to be doing so by singing high barrier. I want to have health and fun. Do you know, when I'm practicing and what I encourage with my students, when you're developing your voice, we do want, the whole idea of developing technique is to, I guess, explore and push the boundaries a little. And so what I always encourage students to do is always take your voice to where it feels comfortable on you know, for a phrase. So if we're going, yeah, 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 and so on, it just keeps going up. There's going to come a point where I kind of hit a marker, yeah? And the voice will go, oh. Always take it plus 1 or 2 steps. That way, you're not settling to allow it to just be what it is. You're encouraging it to develop beyond its current point of comfort, but you are not placing the voice at great danger or risk of overdoing it and therefore running into health issues. And so here in studio, that's what we do all the time, plus 1 or 2. You know, when you are working with a singing teacher, it's a bit like going to the gym, which now in Brisbane, in Australia, actually, you can't go to the gym because gyms have closed as of midday today. When you do work with a PT, a personal trainer, the personal trainer will always push you harder than you will probably push yourself. And so in a singing lesson, that's what I'm doing as a personal trainer of voice. I'm always taking the voice beyond what it comfortably might do by itself. And you can do the same thing when you're working by yourself. Plus 1 or 2 is a good rule of thumb. Thank you, Linda. Someone has replied to Marcel. Terry Lynn, thank you, Terry. Natalie Weiss is the name, and great series. Encourage you to watch that. Always remember, Dr. Dan is not the only quality information about singing on YouTube. So Natalie Weiss, in the area of riffs and runs, I really rate it. It's very good stuff. The Bean Guy Vox, is it possible to be able to speak in my normal tone only if my shoulders are raised? Is it possible to be able to speak in my normal tone only if my shoulders are raised? The problem with raising our shoulders is we are creating a lot of tension, in this area. Your larynx is housed in that space, so we do try to keep the shoulders relatively stable and neutral. We don't want to be sort of gathering tension, because in doing so, the sternocleidomastoids are going to activate. These big muscles that run into the shoulders are strapping. So I would avoid that if possible on a habitual level. There are times, in acting, for example, where the character may be expressing certain things physically while they're speaking, but in general, habitually, we look for neutral shoulders. I'm only going to answer one more question, guys. I'll tell you why. Because I've got to teach. I've got a student arriving any moment. And I will give the last question to Cockney. Alza Squared, I'm sorry, I won't have time to do your question, but we will come back to it. We're going to be doing Q&As as we go. Cockney, what is your opinion of singing in your own regional accent? In many respects, we sing in contemporary music is sort of done in a universal accent, a universal English accent I'm referring to. But there is nothing wrong with singing in your regional, and it really comes down to the genre that you're doing. For example, Australian country music sounds very different to American country music. And so, that comes down to some of the regional accents that we employ, and the way we kind of structure the language and the flow. So Cockney, there's nothing wrong with singing in your region. Celebrate. Right now, celebrate your region. Don't shy away from that. Let your region shine, and I think that would be a good thing. End of the show, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. We had to talk about coronavirus today. To not do so, I thought would be irresponsible of me as the person that steps up in front of you every week. But I wanted to share hope. Again, this is not going to be easy. Some of us are going to, you may have already lost loved ones through this process, and our hearts, we cry with you. We really do. And we will cry with you over the coming weeks and months as more of us experience loss. But for many of us, we are going to come out the other end. We will be different, but there will be an end to this. And just like our family, Jody and myself and the kids, just like we travelled our journey, our cancer chapter, that chapter for us is now closed. Our hope is that the main character of that chapter, colon cancer, doesn't represent itself in chapters to come. But we don't know that yet because those chapters aren't yet written. And so we're continuing to live out our life chapters with hope and with love and with authenticity. And I want to encourage you to do the same over the coming weeks and months. And I'm going to be here right with you, my own health allowing, and we are going to come through this together. I very much look forward to seeing you next week. Can I be honest with you? So I can't remember what we're doing next week. It might be dedicated to Q&A. I can't remember what I scheduled because I didn't look. I've been so focused on what I wanted to share with you today. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week when, as always, you will hear me say, sometimes it gets cut off at the end, but I do always say, I'm Dr. Dan, sing well.